Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmas, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Welcome to all y'all out there in Radio Land. I am guest with George Gue. He's our producer in Monrovia, and we have a very interesting show for you today. This is your moderator, Jimmy Eastman. George, how's it going there in Monrovia?
I'm doing great in Liberia.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that. You know, with the rainy season coming on, there's a lot of slowdown or exploitation, or are they still building the roads? What are they doing these days?
Yes, they're still building the roads because they have to.
That is great. At least we know that they're building the roads. So my question to you, though, let's get right into it. One of the things that was so remarkable, all of us were praising that when we heard that a dialysis, let me bring on one of our guests, Mr. Dukley. Hey, Mr. Dukley, welcome to the stage. Mr. Dukley? Mr. Dukley, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Jimmy.
Okay. So we're just getting into the meat of this conversation.
Right.
We were just talking about the just a minute. The dialysis center at the JFK. This, if you know the cases with dialysis is used to clean the kidneys of people who ordinarily the kidneys will not be clean themselves. And this was a lifesaver. There's so many thousands and thousands of people on dialysis machine throughout the world. So when we heard that Liberia was getting dialysis machine, we knew that this would have been a lifesaver. So many of us hailed this game-changing advancement. But of recent, we're hearing from patients that even when they pay, I think some payments of about $75, and even after they pay, they still don't get the treatment because materials not there, and there some things lacking, and they have referred to this as a death trap. Uh, Miss S. Colley, a 20-year-old dialysis patient, shared her frustration and heartbreak. You know, she paints a harrowing picture of neglect, desperation, and crushing burden of surviving within a system that has given up. So, what stands? What do we do if things are breaking up? Duke, you want to take a stab at this?
Yeah, I actually followed the story, and I personally know someone who actually was in need of a kidney care, and because of the deplorable condition of JFK, this person was able to seek further medical assistance outside the country. Jimmy, this is not happening in isolation. This is not happening in vacuum per se. This is all part of the bad management, the ineffective staffing, and non-functional equipments that we have. It's not only at JFK, but and in all the government hospitals, except for the Jackson Hebdo hospital in Nima County, and even that now is becoming extremely difficult for people to seek health, to seek treatment there because of the bad management is now being extended even at Jackson Hebdo. So what you see happening at JFK is the continuation of what we know that is happening in all of our medical facilities, where priority is not given to maintenance. There are not sufficiently trained technicians to maintain these equipments. And in some cases, these equipments are usually donated to us secondhand, or used equipments. These are now usually brand new equipments that are given to us. So, um, I mean, as a matter of fact, uh, if you look into this, how many dialysis machines are we even talking about here? You know? And so this is just, it's not something new. It's not something that we should be surprised that is happening because the people are, the government has not prioritized our healthcare system at all. And so we are talking about, I always say that the government has its priority misplaced. And this is one of the reasons why I say that the government has its priority misplaced. I mean, something like healthcare, education, roads. These are these are necessities that they are not determined by how wealthy. They are not determined by how poor these countries are. Simply because these are essentials. We need them. So because they are not prioritized, I remember some time ago, about maybe a decade and a half ago, when I visited JFK, the only functioning part of JFK was the maternity ward. And the only reason why the maternity ward was the functioning part of the hospital was because the Japanese government took upon themselves to renovate and 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 equip the maternity ward of the JFK hospital. So, if we only if we're only sitting down waiting for people to give us their second-hand dialysis machine, what do you expect for a population that is just on the rise since I don't know when? So again, these things are not prioritized, and we don't have the requisite technicians that are supposed to maintain these equipment in our hospitals. And so that's the result of what you see happening in JFK. So people who are supposed to be providing these services, they are also trying to cut corners here. They're trying to take bribes there. So people's needs are not being looked after the way it should be. So what you're seeing here is only going to get worse, not any better.
Wow. So we have, in some situations, you have to make do what you have. Okay. Let's say that the only thing we could afford were these second-handed dialysis machines. But the idea is we are not upkeeping them. They are not functional. Right now, people go and they're not sure they're even paying the money, but they're not even sure they're going to get treatment. What can the government do? Because people, they will call the death of some people. As you well know, dialysis patients, when they don't get their treatment, they go into a severe state.
The thing is, Jimmy, dialysis. People use dialysis to sort of buy time, to buy some time, so they will be able to, depend on the condition, so that they can get transplant, which is usually the last result. And so, and even when I talk about secondhand equipment, I'm actually speculating. Uh, I don't have hard factors to substantiate that claim, but I'm only saying it based on the way I know how our government function. I'm saying it based on the way I've seen some other hospitals have been awarded secondhand equipment from well wishers from around the world, and so that's besides the point. We shouldn't be talking about this today, Mr. Jimmy. We are talking about 2025. We are in the 21st century, and yet everything, and I hate for people to blame these things on the war, because we had the war almost 30 some more years ago, and in the interval, in that time period, a tremendous goodwill was shown to Liberia in the form of assistance in many sectors. But these sectors, including the health sector, were not prioritized the way they should have been. Again, like I said, the health sector should have been one of the first places where the needs of the masses should have been taken into account and considered for what it is. I mean, we can debate the quality of the healthcare, but if everybody have access to the healthcare, that can go a long way, especially primary care, and then you go from there, you know. And now we see people, the people who are able to afford it, they go to Ghana for medical care. We see people go to India, and India is one of those places that we can even get some of these equipment from, you know, that can be very helpful to us. I mean, we have a good diplomatic relationship with India. There are other countries that can also help us to equip our hospitals. And I remember Delfina was on the show here the other time. She was talking about Cuba. Cuba is one of those places that we can get assistance from. We can get specialists, we can get doctors, and we can find ways if only these things are prioritized by the government. Because, and when I say prioritize, usually these things are only prioritized if they are able to dip into the funds and put some money in their pocket.
You know, let's call a spade a spade. Okay. We said we don't have the necessary, or we're neglecting our health care. Is it due to corruption? Because there was a report that came out from the General Auditing Commission. It was released in March this year. It reveals several significant payroll irregularities, financial mismanagement, all within the Ministry of Presidential Affairs. Okay? Now, this has been going on for some while. What is your take? Should former and current officials of the Ministry of State be prosecuted for the financial mismanagement and payroll fraud uncovered by the GSC audit? Isn't this the reason why we don't have a JFK and why not having enough to take care of the patients because of all this mismanagement that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, but Jimmy, there are laws on the books. There are rules and regulations. There are prescribed solutions to some of these problems. So, if you are audited and you are found to have mismanaged, if you are found to have embezzled, there is a prescription for that. And so there's nothing new here at all. All you see, people tiptoes around what needs to be done. People cut corners here and there so that they can avoid being accountable. And so what you see happening in JFK and other places is the result of people not being held accountable, is the result of people mismanaging the funds that we go to the World Bank to borrow, the funds that we go to bilateral partners, in some cases, our multilateral partners. When this money get to our hands, we try to do something completely different from what we had asked the money for, the purpose for which we had asked for the money. And so this is a no-brainer, Jimmy. There are laws on the books that's supposed to tell us what to do when people embezzle or when people are caught in corruption. You're supposed to refer them to the justice system. But again, look at the justice system that we have. The justice system is just as corrupt like any other sector. So really, until such time that we have gutsy politicians who are willing to be unconventional. By unconventional, I mean to do the proper thing, because you see, we have now come to internalize this way of doing things as the normal way of doing things. So until we can divorce ourselves from this way of doing things, we're not going to go anywhere, Jimmy, because there's no accountability. And so the laws that are on the books, they are not deterring nobody from doing these things. So all you're going to see is now become a vicious circle where we can't seem to have an exit out of it.
So, what about this administration? How, to what extent should the current administration be held responsible for the ongoing issues
You
at the
see,
executive? Because part of the violations occurred under the watch of this administration.
well, I mean, look, Jimmy, you have to go back from when the hostility stopped and we usher in this new era of peace, followed by the democratic exercise that we embarked on. So let's say, forget about the interim period, because the interim period was one of those periods where some of these things were crafted and they were brought into the Ellen era. In other words, from Ellen to Joseph Boakai, it seems like there is no continuum, and that's also part of the problem, where one government come to one government come to power, and they do all what it's supposed to do, and when the next government comes there, they chart a completely different and new course, completely different from their predecessor, because the way the government function in our country, they are now functioning based on prioritizing or improving the needs of the people. No, they are there to enrich themselves. It's almost like, what, you have had your time, you've stolen enough. Now it is our turn to enrich ourselves. They don't say in those terms, but really that's what happens. So XYZ was in power. She had this project ongoing. She didn't finish it. Now we are going to continue that project, right? I mean, if you have a continuum, that's what you expect. But no, the new government comes in, they chart a completely different course of action, different course of doing things. as if to say they want to prove to the Liberian citizenry, the Liberian electorate, that we are better than those guys that we replaced. And here is the proof. And so they go on. I mean, if you remember, Jimmy, when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf came to power, one of the things that she painstakingly talked about was how she made the coffers empty. And now we saw the same thing with George Weah telling us how he came and made the national coffers empty. Joseph Walker was not any different. So there is a pattern here. The reason why they said this, they use this method to justify to us that when they came in, the country was broke. And now we know that what George Weah told us about the coffer being empty, we now know that it's not true. But again, if you just look at the pattern from Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to George Weah and now to Joseph Walker, it's going to continue, because this is how they set the stage to siphon whatever money they want to siphon from the country. So we are not going to see any changes, Jimmy. We are not going to see any improvement. You know, as bad as this might sound, that's just the unfortunate reality of our country. Look, we are lacking leadership. Leadership is one of the things that is killing us. We always know that the president, the head of state, is the one who set the tone, and everybody else follows. And so you can see how Joseph Walker, from the onset of his from his ascendancy to national power, what has he done? Look at the things that he has done, the faux pas, the mistakes, the all kinds of things that we've seen from a seasoned politician as he is, for somebody who spent, if not his entire life in government, but a very significant part of his life in government. And this is what we get. Do you expect things to get any better? No, I don't. I mean, as pessimistic as that might sound, it's just the unfortunate reality of our Mama Liberia, Jimmy.
So if you are grading the new administration, as we heard in the news, there's so much chatter about what Senator Snowe said. But would you give this administration a pass or fail up to this point?
I mean, considering the enormity of what they were faced with, coupled with their own agenda that they put in place, I mean, you can't help but to give them an F. I mean, I would give them an F in almost all sectors, and the reason why I would go that route is simply because there should have been nothing new here. These were people that were in opposition. These were people who are very familiar with what needs to be done. They know all the issues. They know what needs to be done to deal with the issues, and yet they embark on this rabbit hole that they found themselves in. They are only digging themselves further in this rabbit hole. And yeah, I mean, there are pockets where there has been some progress, but looking at where we have come from to where we are now, because of that, I'm always hesitant to even give them a pass on some of those little improvement here and there. Yes,
people argue that right now across the bridge, the Vytown road has been in deplorable conditions for years. They're working on that. We've seen some progress on the RIA road, and red light has finally been opened up. We understand that some roads in the interior parts of Liberia are now passable. So one would claim that, yeah, the progress is slow, but there has been some progress since this administration has taken
yeah, and that's what I was saying. That's what I refer to as pockets of development or pockets of improvement, if you want to call it that. And these pockets are just pockets, like I'm saying. if you look at the overall, picture of the road condition in Liberia, and factor in the number of roads that have been done, I mean, I will give them a failing grade because of that reason. But yeah, there are areas where they've paved the road. They're trying to construct some other roads. But overall, when you look at I mean, what happened with uh, Bon County to Bonjama? What happened with that road? You know, that road is a very major road in Liberia. What has been done there? You know, and Gunter to Harper, what has happened there? Now, I'm not saying there hasn't been some progress in those roads, but the way and the amount of progress that have been made compared to what needs to be done, it's dismal. It's dismal, Jimmy. So yeah, and after all, Jimmy, look at the economic situation of the people. If you watch social media, if you watch what people are saying, I mean, just go to the market, just go to the laymen and women who are in the street and ask them, are you better off now, or were you better off when George Weah was in place? Most people will tell you we were better off when George Weah was in place. And that is a disaster.
Where do
That
you get
is,
where are you getting your information from, Dr. Dukley?
I mean, I see this on social media. I see, people go around asking marketers, asking vendors in the street, and they are telling them, there was this one lady who was saying, when in George Weah days, I was able to join my susu. I could afford my susu, and now I can't even afford my susu because of the hard time. Here are my merchandise. No one is coming to buy, and and this is not on one particular platform. There was almost I can tell you I saw this not from one content creator, but multiple content creator who went to the market, who went to the street and talked to the ordinary Liberians. And these are the people that the government is supposed to take the cue from, because these are the people that voted them in. These are the people that are going to be voting them, voting them out come next election. So when you see people crying today, wanting telling people that maybe George Weah time was better, it just tells you where we are. It just tells you how deteriorating our economy is getting. And so, and and you see, the thing is, Jimmy, it's not as if there's no progress being made at all. No, but the way we measure this progress and the areas and the places that this progress are happening is not trickling down to the layman in the street. It's not the guy who used to afford 3 square meals today, he can't afford 3 square meals. To him, that's how he evaluate progress. She used to sell. There was another lady who says, she sells fish. In George Weah time, she used to sell at least $3,000 fish before noon. Now, if she's lucky to even get one customer. So, I mean, I'm not in Liberia, but I follow the social media. I follow what is trending online, and I try to talk to people on the ground as much as I can. And I also follow the Liberian media. When you read the media, when you read what they are writing, and you know how these things work. And I mean, look, people who are partisan of the Unity Party, when they speak of the Unity Party, they are always going to, you know, highlight some of these pockets of development that you were talking about, as if to say this is a development at the national scale, when in fact this is just one road in Calway or somewhere in Jogotam, in Monrovia there. So really, in order for us to evaluate this government in terms of improvement, we have to see the people's life improve economically. And the way we can see and evaluate that is the way people feel their lives has been improved or hasn't been improved.
Well, it's one thing going in the street and asking people, how is it doing? The everyday citizen. But what about the business people? The business people are another point where you can determine if the economy is doing well. So without getting feedback from the business people, is it enough
No.
to?
No, Jimmy. The point I'm trying to drive home here is that these ordinary Liberians, these people, who sell in the market, whatever you see, whatever you see them talk about is the window into the economy. Whatever you see them talk about is the window into the general condition. Now, you're talking about the business people. It depends on what kind of business people you're talking about and the kind of businesses that they are doing. So, for example, you have somebody who has he has a store on Broad Street, or he has a store somewhere in Johnsonville. The traffic of customers that he or she had, or the traffic of customer he or she experienced when Georgia was in power, compared to the one where he or she is having today, they would tell you we are having less. And so what that simply means, there's less cash going around in the economy. And so when there's less cash in the economy, the purchasing power reduces. And when the purchasing power reduces, that's when you see those people that I was telling you about in the market, the people who sell in the street and all that. That's when you see they will tell you, uh, today I can't even sell to two, three people. So those people that I was talking about, they are the one through whom you can see how the economy is functioning or how the economy is not functioning.
Well, yeah. While I agree with you, but the National Bank released their report, and according to the central bank report, the economy is is growing slightly. What seems to be one of the issues is that private credit to private sector is below 15% of GDP. You can't. It has to be higher than that. There's some structural inefficiencies in the economy, but GDP itself has been growing steadily, from um, 4.6 in 2023 to 4.8 in 2024, and there's a projection by the bank that it will be 5.6 in 2025. So unless we're looking at, and I agree with you, looking at simple growth is not enough. There was one book written, Growth Without Development, and that was about the Tubman era, whereas Liberia experienced enormous growth, but it did not trickle down into infrastructural changes for the people, to raise their livelihoods. You would think that the coming of Firestone would have been pivotal in the upliftment of Liberia, but no, the the coming of Firestone brought in slavery. We had to force our people to work for less than the minimal wage throughout the region. So where Firestone could have been provided good blue collar jobs, and people have developed a middle economy, all the profits were taken away, and we were forced to work for less than the medium wage in the region. So, there's been so much. There's been what when you hear about other countries like Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali taking over their colonial uh, uh, structures because they're not getting little or nothing. I think we need to re-examine how much we gain from our current you know economic trade and benefit. Where are you on that?
Yeah, and Jimmy, you have to remember when CDC first came to power, and the finance minister, George West finance minister, what's his name again? Toa.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One of the things he said, and loud and clear, he said, the economic challenges of Liberia is going to soon be behind us, and soon we are going to be export-based economy as opposed to import-based economy. So, what that simply means, they were supposed to transform the economy to be an export-based economy. So, our natural resources, our minerals, and all the other things, that all the other elements that supports these export economy he was talking about, uh, did not exist, and they did not prioritize having them to exist. And so it just tells you that this was just slogans. This was just meant for local consumption to the partisan of CDC. And so the projection that the National Bank was sort of a release, these projections are just that, projection. Yes, when you look at the GDP, yeah, there will be an improvement in the GDP. And the GDP, in order for you to sense how this GDP is actually spread among the various sectors of our economy, you have to remember we don't have a vibrant private sector. And so, because we don't have a vibrant private sector, because a vibrant private sector is usually enhanced by middle class earners, people who are in the middle class and they earn. And these earners of the middle class, they are the one that hold the key to the economy uh, um, in terms of how well we can evaluate the economic functioning of our country. Now, you don't have a vibrant private sector. No, do you have a middle class that is supposed to be earning from that vibrant private sector, and that earning trickles down to the rest of the economy, in other sectors of the economy, in the form of spending, in the form of creating jobs here and there. Because once people have job, then they will be able to spend from their earnings. But you have this economy that is one-sided, and by one-sided I mean you have only the public sector that is pumping in most of what circulates in the economy. So it's almost like the private sector is dried up, and so the few that are there, they are not as vibrant as they should be. As some of these concessions that we had, they're having issues here. There's so many problems, and in some instances they're even laying off people. These are supposed to be people who supposed to earn what we refer to as living wages, and through that they spend, and through that spending we see the economy moving. And so you talk about Firestone, and the history of Firestone in Liberia is one of a misery for the people who actually do the heavy lifting for Firestone, the rubber tappers and all the low, the maintenance and the cleaners, you name it. But again, Firestone should have been one of the companies that other companies should have emulated in terms of the way they deal with the Liberian staffers, the Liberian employees, and all that. And if I don't know if you remember this meeting that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf had with the management of with the management of Firestone in her first term, when she said, "We are no longer going to accept the way you treat our people. We are no longer going to accept the way you have deprived our people of basic their basic necessities, where no adequate housing were provided, and
That
even the wages that they were being paid was not a
meager.
livable wage. So and
Exactly.
that's one of the areas of the private sector that's supposed to be the engine that will move this economy, because you will create more jobs, pay salaries, people will get livable wages, and they will spend. And from spending, other people will benefit from that spending, in the form of, people buy, people sell, people, move around. And
Yeah.
so through that, people's social status, people move through the social mobility ladder. But none of that is happening. Everything is stagnant. As I speak to you right now, I don't know of any investors who have come to the country, and I mean major investor who have come to the country since Joseph Boakai came to power. Because
Okay.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
think I think you on a right path here. The private sector, it's you say it's dry, it's open, it's not doing anything. We have to target the private sector. To we have to revolutionize things in the private sector if it ever is going to change. For instance, there's a story that came out just the other day with the Sethi brothers.
Yes.
They were found, they're not manufacturing, and they were found buying steel rods from Ghana or neighboring Nigeria and selling it on a Liberian market 3 times what they bought it for. As a result, any retailers buying the steel rod could not make more than 75 cents on a single steel rod. That means if one went bad, the whole profit would go down. Now, the the franchise given to the Sethi brothers, nobody can import steel rods, and they are not manufacturing. We gave them this monopoly, if you will, with the hope that they will make things cheaper. But you can see they are taking advantage of the situation, and nobody is policing it. Um, I understand the government is strapped for cash, but what I'm saying, what the government should do is to focus on building their private sector out, and only somebody who understands the private sector can do this. He knows how to encourage uh, uh, um, businesses to come back. You have to weed out the bribes and the corruption in that sector. You have to make it free from that, so it can conduct business in a clean environment. That's the first thing you have to do. So it will require cleaning that out, and then providing a mechanism and policing the area so that people will not take advantage, like how the Sethi brothers um, have taken advantage of the monopoly. And in fact, let me just ask you: Do you think foreign-owned companies like Sethi Brothers help or hurt the local development in Liberia?
Of course they hurt. And this is deliberate. um you and I know how long the Sethi brother have been on a commercial scene in this when it comes to steroid.
Mhm.
And this is what they really wanted. They wanted to make sure that they have the monopoly, and with the monopoly, it gives them the power to use that monopolist power to stifle any other person so that they can maintain the control in the construction sector where you can only buy steel from only them. And so this is not any different from uh, what happened when the Lebanese had the monopoly over the rice. And knowing that the rice was a staple in Liberia and only they could import the rice, you saw how from time to time they will create this artificial shortage and then use that artificial shortage and then jack the prices up. People have no choice. It's the same thing happening with the Sethi brother here. The Sethi brother know that they have a full monopoly on the steroid market, and so they can get their steroid from anywhere. And so the government or people who are supposed to be in regulatory positions to make sure that these things are not done in a way that it will harm the local construction sector, they are only after how much money they can make from these business people. And once their needs are satisfied, they couldn't care less what happened to the market. They couldn't care less what happened to the economy. So people are left at the mercy of the Sethi brothers. And again, this is one of the things that I had always spoken about on this particular platform. I said, Joseph Walker has a golden opportunity to do something that has never been done. And one of the things that I mentioned when I was talking about his new platform that he had put out, it was the tourism sector. We do have, you know, ecotourism needs to be developed. Ecotourism is one of the things that if we had paid sufficient attention to, we can generate millions of dollars. We can have, you know, I don't want to say millions, but we can have a lot of people visiting Liberia. I don't think our tourism sector has been sufficiently exploited or, you know, marketed sufficiently to attract people to come and develop in our tourism sector. You know, we have tremendous natural resources that we can use uh, in the tourism sector to generate more money. Now, like I said, one of the areas that Joseph Walker administration has been lacking is attracting direct foreign investment to Liberia. The investment, National Investment Commission, as if they don't exist. You know, otherwise, I have been fortunate to have lived in a country that their GDP depend on the amount of tourists that go into the country, which is Egypt. And if you see how they have developed their tourism sector, what they have done to attract people from all over the world to go there. Look, if I heard one of the content creator talking about surfing, how surfing has been one of the areas that he hoped that they can develop the surfing sector to attract more surfers from around the world to come to Liberia. We have these beautiful, beautiful beaches. They have these, lodges all over the place. People talk about Grand Cape County. That's just one area. What about the southeast? There are what's about in Lofa? What's about in Bone County? I mean, there are just so many places. People will pay money to come and see this wildlife in their natural habitat. People will pay money to go and see that. Why do you think people flock to Nairobi? Nairobi has a national park in the heart of Nairobi. People come from all over the world to see those animals. They refer to it as safari. You go on a safari, all they do, they take you on a tour. You see these animals in their natural habitat. That's all.
Enter at your own risk. I remember when I went there.
That's right. That's all.
Enter at your own risk.
Exactly. That's all what it is.
Yeah,
What do you think? Do you think we are not capable of doing something like that? Yes, we can. We are capable. If we
yeah,
are not, let's
but do
encourage investors to come to develop this sector for us.
do don't you think there's certain things that we have to do first? We talk about roads and transportation. We talk about air travel. Do we have international flight connectivity? Hardly. Utilities, hospitality facilities. We need a master plan. Do we have a plan, a blueprint? How we going to get there? That is one thing I see so missing in our country. Nobody's coming up with a master plan that not only this administration can use it, but the next and the next and the next. You know, how can you create just such an environment if you don't know, you don't have a plan to get there?
Yeah, but Jimmy, this is why I said we need leadership. One of the reason, the major, what I see as a major obstacle in all these is lack of the needed leadership. Now we're talking about roads. We've been talking about roads since I wasn't even born in Liberia. And so this road issue, besides farmers needing to have these feeder roads so that they can access the market, they can bring their produce to the market. Besides that, there are other usage of the roads. There, like you were just talking about, where the tourists okay, if you have a let's say you have one of these forests in Kongba in Bapolu County, and people want to go see these animals in their natural habitat, and you have a road, let's say from Monrovia to Bopolu, whatever, or from Bopolu to Bele, or anywhere in that part of Liberia. The roads would have already been there, and either you would need to improve on those roads, but the roads would have been there. Now that you have an agenda to improve the tourism sector, you pay a little bit more attention to those roads, and then you develop the main attractions of that region. If it's if it's a zoo, if it's animals in a natural, whatever it is, then you develop that so that you attract more people to come there. Even you can even encourage local tourism. Take students on a tour to go to those places so that they look, there is just so much that can be done in the tourism sector that hasn't been done yet. And I'm not even sure if people are even thinking about the tourism sector and how much money we can actually generate from this tourism thing here.
I totally agree. Tourism is one thing, but I still believe, which is also can be help the private sector. But what I don't see, just like the tourism sector, do we have a plan to develop our private sector? Or are we just hoping that it's going to happen? It does not happen like that. And this is why we need Liberians to come together, you know, spearheaded by the leadership, to come up with a plan. How can we improve this private sector so that people can make business? So long as our private sector is thriving.
The thing is, Jimmy, one of the things that is hindering some of these things is that when we talk about direct foreign investment, sometimes we get to overlook our own people. There are wealthy Liberians around the world. Seek them out, encourage them, incentivize what you're offering them so that they can come and invest in those sectors. It's even going to be a lot more meaningful if I, as a Liberian, I want to come and do some investment in Liberia. I'm from there. I know the territory. I know the terrain. There are a lot of things that I can save the government. In return, I can provide these things and I can create jobs. I can, but people are not even pitching these things to wealthy Liberians around the world. There are wealthy
But I
Liberians in
want to
Europe.
ask you,
Yes.
you've been in Liberia. You notice there's an attitude. I don't know, it's because of poverty, most likely, that when you come from abroad, the people try to find a way to hustle you.
Yeah.
Especially if they find you have a lot of money, you will go there with the interest of doing business. I mean, some of us who build houses or build our own family people hustling us. There's this attitude that, um, this is elephant meat. Let me go cut my own, and that has frightened many to would-be investors away.
Yes, and there's some element of truth in that, but I don't think that should. I don't think that's enough. Is sufficient enough to deter us from wanting to invest in Liberia. You see, Jimmy, if you are doing development at a large scale, where you are looking at millions of dollars that is going to yield lots of jobs for the people or the locals or people in the region, I think those jobs would be the reason to turn the people in your favor. Those earning people, making money from those projects that you're going to be undertaking, would be a reason to resonate, to see where you are coming from. Usually we hear about how you know, um, family members try to, crook you out of your money, or these things are bound to happen when someone who is not used to handling, um, $1,000, you go and entrust them with $10,000. You are doing that at your own peril. You are doing that at your own risk. Sometimes, I know this might sound strange, if your wealth is not safe in the hands of your relatives, where else can it be saved, right? But that's a very wrong way of looking at it. You know, try to engage people who are not even family members, who you think can do the job. Just because they're a family member doesn't necessarily mean they can do the job. And so we always tend to trust somebody in the family because of some, relationship, either, or the person gives you all the impression that they can do this, they can do that. But look, everybody is having some form of difficulties financially, and so they are looking for opportunities. People have become so crafty in taking people money, trying to fool investors and all that. We've heard the story of the Korean investor who was and who had this terrible experience. Now, I don't want to come to the defense of the government and say these were isolated incidents, but sometimes you have to know how you go about doing these things, you know especially with the private sector. Look, I am encouraged by what this guy did, Johnson, this guy who built this learning center, uh, Leo Johnson. What Leo did was that. Can you hear me? I can't
Yeah,
hear you. Okay, okay.
yeah. Leo
So
was outstanding, outstanding.
yeah, so one of the things that Leo did that led to this massive success. Uh, Leo always told them what he wanted to do and how he intended on doing it. So Leo wasn't just saying this is what I want to do, but Leo also gave the impression that if anyone is interested to be part of this, I am here. And if you're not, I'm not going to wait for you. So Leo had his plan A and plan B. So if plan A doesn't work, plan B will work. So he had everything laid out. So now that he has gone through it, and people are seeing how successful they are, the one now who want to be part of it. This is just, I think, what you saw now is the first phase. There are multiple other phases that are going to follow this, but now people see that, you know what, to even go to bribe people, Leo doesn't go for that. He has his mind made up, he has his agenda, he has things planned out. You want to be part of it, come and join me. If you don't, I'm not going to wait for you. So So we can do the same thing as people who wanted to invest in Liberia. Yes, sometimes the red tapes are so difficult to get past that you are sometimes forced to do something that you are not comfortable doing. But if you are investing in an area where there are a lot of young people who are going to be employed or who are expected to be employed, you need to engage them, and you need to engage them at their level. You don't come there and talk to them as if as if you're talking to some youth from Brooklyn Park, or you're talking to some youth from North Carolina. No, engage them at their level, where somebody within the community becomes your liaison that relate to these people, and then tell you what their needs are, and you look at the scheme of what you want to invest, and see how those needs can be fulfilled in a way that will benefit you as the investor, and it will benefit them as the people who are going to be employed in that area or in that region. And so, but the thing is, people become very greedy. Some of these intermediaries who are supposed to be helping you to get these things done, they become greedy. They realize, oh, this guy is coming from abroad, he has a lot of money. Instead of doing what they are supposed to do, they become greedy. They want to be the one to even get some money from you. So you have to be very calculative. You have to be very organized in terms of what you want to do and how you want to do it, and with whom are you going to do it. So aid, assistance has never developed any country. Point to one single country on the continent that has been developed through aid that is coming from the World Bank or from the IMF, and you name it. No, all the development has always come from leaders who have been able to use the resources of their country. And Jimmy, I was listening to Paul Kagame the other day, and he said something that really caught my attention. He said part of the problem we have in Africa is that we elect leaders, that we know are not going to do what they are supposed to do, and yet we expect more from them. And some of these leaders are not being used by some foreign powers to hold us back. And the reason why I thought this was important, Rwanda doesn't have any known natural resources. And yet, look at where they are today because of the kind of leadership provided by Paul Kagame. So, you can say all what you want to say about human rights. You can say all what you want to say about, all the thing that the West would tell us about Rwanda. But what he has done, life expectancy in Rwanda from the time Paul Kagame assumed power has risen by 20 years since he came to power in 1994. 20 years. That's not a small gig there. So he has improved because of the program. He has bring in a very effective healthcare system for everybody, for all the Rwandese. He has revamped the education system. Now people are coming from all over the continent to go to school in Rwanda. Look at Rwanda. Look at the size of Rwanda. Look at the thing. Rwanda is now producing cell phones on the continent. They are assembling them. They don't make them, but they are assembling them. And the sector there, employ many young people. So we need to look at the example in Rwanda and see if there's anything there that we can bring back to Liberia. It's not as if we don't have the manpower or we don't have the resources, but we are lacking the leadership that's supposed to lead us to the path of development.
Since you want to mention Rwanda, their budget went through a 20.9% increase from the previous year.
There you go.
20.9% increase. Domestic revenues were 4.1 trillion Rwanda
There you go.
dollars.
Yes.
External were 2.1 trillion, and grants were 585 billion. You know how they plan to spend their money? Recurrent expenditures is 62% of their budget.
There you go.
Development projects are 37.5. When you analyze a country's budget, it will tell you where they're going.
And that is the blueprint. It gives you the blueprint of how you move forward, and by moving forward, you consider all the various sectors that need to come together in order for you to move forward, right? And so one of the things that Rwanda has done, despite all this massive human rights abuse, interference in the Congo, and all that, Rwanda is enjoying direct foreign investment in Rwanda. People are bringing in their money, despite all this criticism, but they feel that Rwanda is safe, Rwanda is secure. So they are willing to bring that money into Rwanda and invest. Like I said, Rwanda doesn't produce anything, and yet they are attractive because the environment there is conducive for investment. The environment there allows for uh, 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 the people of Rwanda to benefit from these investments, and so the government is creating conditions that encourages investors to come in there. You know, I mean, there's a huge South African investment in Rwanda. You know, and so uh, why can we do that? Why can we attract some of these investors? Are we actually are we trying hard enough,
No,
or are we not trying?
I can tell you, dude, nobody will want to go somewhere when the time to get their money, they can't get it.
There you
When it's
go.
time to collect their money, the judicial system is corrupted, and they can't see redress. That is the key. I talked to some very wealthy Lebanese people in the country a couple of years ago now, and they said that's one of the key points. The idea is that you put your money in this economy, you're not sure you can get it out because of the you know racketeer behavior of
Yeah,
some officials.
yeah, yeah. And
And
and these are people hard-earned money. They can't just throw their money.
they will not do it. So this is why I've been emphasizing, Duke, that we have to focus on that private sector. That private sector is key to everything.
Yes,
Government,
indeed.
government can't do this on their own. But to do it, you will have to gut it. You have to actually put severe punishments in place for corrupt actors. And you
Yeah, I
have to
mean,
continuously monitor it. That's how Singapore got out of their corruption. But we're
yeah,
not serious about it. We then one after the other, they come and they get acclimated to this trend, to this, you know, behavior pattern of, let me just fill my butt. Nobody looking. I would just
yes,
fill my,
yes,
you know, and we find ourselves here. We're not going anywhere. And sometimes we come on these shows and we talk, but what is it doing? It's not really changing anybody's behavior. You know?
well, yes, you might see it that way. I think you should also look at it this way. uh that's also one of the ways that we can effect change, by constantly talking about these things. And so, yeah, we might not see immediate change, but when people know that and feel that whatever they are doing is being scrutinized, there are other people who are looking at them, and so they are going to be exposed. That might be a reason for someone to consider certain things, you know. And again, we need to do lots of, I mean, lots of radical things. We need to revamp our educational system, where people would know that they need to be patriotic, and by patriotic I mean real patriots. You know, and when you are fortunate to go to Northern Africa, and you see patriotism being displayed, you wonder. I mean, Jimmy, if you go to Egypt as an example, I mean, this is a place that I know very well, and you are walking in the street, you run into an ordinary Egyptian. They're always curious to know what you think about Egypt. So whenever they see tourists, whenever they see someone that they know he or she is not an Egyptian, they always want to know your opinion about Egypt. So they will ask you, "Hey, what do you think of Egypt?" When you say thumbs down to them, this person will almost want to cry. They want to know what makes you think that Egypt is thumbs down. That's how patriotic they can be. He or she will want to cry. Really? Why is it that you think that way of Egypt? Why you think that we are like that? They want to know. They get curious. And so this is a country that lives, by having tourists there. So they go out of their way to make sure that everyone who goes there, he or she is safe, he or she is satisfied with what they find there. So they go out of their way to make sure that they make you feel welcome. They make you feel, you should enjoy your time here. So that kind of a patriotism, we need to see that in our policymakers, where everything must be Liberian driven. It's not their pocket driven. It shouldn't be their belly driven. So, until we can have a meaningfully functioning judicial system that will give the investors some sense of security, if you want to call it that. We're gonna be in this for a very long while to come, Jimmy.
You brought in a good thing, patriotism. Okay, now a lot of Liberians, in fact, the majority, if you want to look at it that way, of Liberians were felt that the country were for those immigrants, people who came, they had the country, so they didn't develop that national patriotism because they felt marginalized, unentitled to the gains and benefits of the country. So now I think that is what has led to this lack of patriotism. So to reverse that, we're not taking, even though we know certain things happen, but we're not taking direct action to change it, to attack the issue. It needs focused action to attack the issue. And the
Yeah, but
first thing to do is to acknowledge that the past wrongs, okay, that marginalized, that left people feel neglected and not entitled to the benefits of the country, okay? After that, maybe with some apologies, then you have to implement targeted development and inclusion programs. Okay, you have to make a serious effort for people to feel part of Liberia, that they feel part of the what's going on, and they make a difference. Because what has replaced that other group now is greediness on the part, selfish greediness. So there's still people still left out. So
yeah,
you
but
to reverse that, you need to plan, you know,
but
programs
but Jimmy,
that will
all
do
of
that.
that can be done with a good leadership, a leadership that is patriotic in what they do. And by patriotic, I mean for Mama Liberia in everything they do. Now, this thing that we always do about talking about the TWP, uh, party and what they
Mm-hmm.
have done,
Mm-hmm.
it's been more than 40 years
Right.
since we got rid of them. Jimmy, 40 years is a long time
Yeah.
to affect change if we actually want to bring about
I
change.
agree. 100%.
So I don't think we should even mention the TWP in any of our conversation
Mm-hmm.
because that era is now behind us, it's now history. We had the perfect opportunity to write it for ourselves.
Okay.
Yes, Samuel Cato came, he just exacerbated what people were going through. I get that. We had the 14 years of war. I get that. Now, the golden opportunity we had and we did not make use of it was post war Liberia. I think that's where we missed the mark because post war Liberia was the moment we needed to come with a national agenda, the national agenda that would not depend on who is in power. As long as there is national government, that national agenda would be in full swing. That's
Right.
what I was telling you when I said there's no continuum, and that's where I think we missed the mark. Because post-war Liberia should have focused, should have concentrated on all the ills that led us to where we went, and try to find a way to avoid them. Instead, we felt as if this is now our turn. All what people have done, we are now the native people in charge of our country. We need to do we need to do all the things that we need to do to enrich ourselves instead of developing Liberia. And that's where I'm always critical of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf because Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was the one who had this golden opportunity that should have taken us to Jerusalem by bringing all these revolutionary thinking that was all pro Liberia, that was all nationalistic in nature, because Ellen Johnson Sirleaf know all the issues. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf has dealt with all the issues before she became president. Despite being beholden to so many interests, I think Liberia, anything that was pro Liberia would have been appreciated. Anything pro Liberia would have been supported. But you know, we missed the mark there. Jimmy, tell me what reason, what excuse do we have to have OAU, the building in the place there, lying in ruin? What excuse do we have?
Mm-hmm.
That is that building can be resurrected. That building can be brought back to life where people can work there. It can be. Is it that we don't have the ability to attract an investor who can who can uh, who can help us bring that thing back to life?
I can tell
I
you
don't.
some things about that OU building.
Yes, I don't think they have prioritized it. I don't think someone has ever thought of, okay, let's seriously seek. Look, there are a lot of investors in the Gulf region of the world, the Arabian Gulf. There are a lot of people who are in Europe who could develop that place for us
Yeah.
and bring it back to life.
The
You
the
know,
the, the idea is at one time Gus was managing that place.
the Dutch guy.
Yeah, the mafia guy. They claim he was a mafia guy. But anyway, the idea is every they can't make up their mind. Everybody wants the kickback and this and that, and that is why nobody has taken over it.
Well, you see, when I look at Hotel Africa, it's a massive structure, Jimmy, that will require lots of money, and I mean lots of money. And so, in fact, it would be a gamble for any investor to think of investing in that property. But you need to incentivize the investors to come. You need to encourage them. You need to give them reasons why, if they invest in that property, it will be a good thing for them, and it will be a good thing for Liberia. And but again, I don't know if anyone in the government has ever thought of that. I don't know if there has been attempt to to resurrect that building, you know. And so when we had that golden opportunity after the war, you know, and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, that's why I always say that she failed miserably, because you know, some of these things that we are dealing with today, some of these ills in our society, in our government, you know, started from, you know, when we had the interim government, and then she carried some of them over, and now today we are where we are. And so I think it's not too late. We can still reverse some of those things, and that's why I don't want us to talk about the TWP anymore, because like I said, this was a 40 almost 40 years ago, or more than 40 years ago. I mean, what have we done since then? Do we have a national plan for Liberia? Have we talked about a plan that will be a lot more inclusive for every Liberian, regardless of their faith, regardless of their tribe, regardless of their region, etc.? So, national conference that would have brought everybody together, a national conference that would have allowed everybody to air their grievances, and take into account their concern, and some of these concerns should be put into law, because some of these concerns were what brought about the disastrous 14 years of civil war that we had, you know. So um, I don't think people are ever thinking about that. Rather, people are thinking about how much money they can make, how much money
That's
they can
it.
steal, and so everything is done at the expense of the Liberian people,
Yep.
because you know it reminds me of what Professor Lumumba said. You know, he said that we always tend to elect, you know, thieves as our leaders, and we expect these thieves to behave like noble people, you know,
Yeah.
when in fact we knew they were thieves. So, you know, uh, uh, he also went in that same conversation. He talked about how looting, how African leaders loot. He said he went to Liberia, you know, he went to Uganda. You know, as someone said, people are looting at a massive scale, and then he goes to Liberia. They say, "Oh, Liberia, they are looting at that industrial level." I mean, it just. So, Jimmy, this whole thing here, the prescription for this was there. The way forward was there. The leaders just don't follow these prescriptions because it doesn't benefit them personally. There's nothing in those prescriptions that they can benefit from, so they wouldn't pay attention to it. Look at what is happening. Look at the political atmosphere in Liberia today. Look at what happened with the legislature and all the money that went through that process. And now look at where we are. So it's almost like I said earlier, it's become a vicious circle where we don't seem to find an exit out of it.
Hmm. Yeah, my brother, but we have to remember that patriotism cannot be demanded. It must be nurtured by acknowledging the past, transforming the present, and empowering every citizen to shape the future. The state
Yeah,
can rebuild a national security rooted in shared dignity, justice, and hope. But like I keep saying, there is no blueprint. Nobody's coming up with a plan for us to get there. And it won't happen. You ever build a house and you got no plan how you want to build that house? No plan? Whether it be 4 story, whether it be 2 rooms, whether you have the septic tank outside, nothing, no plan. It's just willy nilly. It's not go.
yeah.
It may never be built.
We don't have the requisite leadership that's supposed to take us on that path. We don't have the leaders in the legislature that are supposed to be looking after us so that we can improve. You know, you always hear people talking about, oh, the president is doing this road in Carway, and this is happening. And look at development. This is how people are brainwashed. This is how people the partisans are hooked up to all these little things, and they make it look like as if the entire country has been developed. I mean, what excuse do we have? I
Mhm.
remember when George Weah came to power, he was talking about the coastal highway. You know, as funny as it might have sounded that then, that's something that can be done.
Oh, of course. In fact,
That's something that can be
it
done,
is
and
it is actively being sought by all the nations. Ghana,
and
Togo,
and
Ivory
it
Coast.
can be
Everybody
done
is working toward that goal. It's
if
not
we want to do
Liberia
it.
alone.
We can do it. We can do it. And if you do that, it's going to yield a tremendous economic benefit for the country.
Yeah. But I want to
You
ask
know?
you now. We've been talking
Yes.
about leadership extensively. So
Yes.
let's go to the last topic. Recently, we've heard a lot of chatter
Yes.
coming from the remarks of Senator Edwin Melvin Snowe of Bomi, where it is stated that he advocated or wanted to see this current administration fail. It is understood he has aspirations for running in 2029, and so he felt that their success will not be beneficial to him. And this has set off a lot of chatter on all the radio stations in the country, all the media stations, including ELBC. We find the Minister of Information
Information.
coming up with a condemnation. The managing director of Eugene Fagan coming up with you know statement against the senator. It's caused a lot of brouhaha. And I want to ask you, looking at what he said, I don't know if you're privy to it, but was he not within his legal bounds to have said what he did?
Yeah, Jimmy, I actually saw a snippet of that comment when Edwin Snow made that comment. I think, again, we're talking about patriotism. I think,
Oh, welcome, Anthony says to the show. Welcome to the show.
Jimmy, thank you. It's good to be here.
Okay.
You know,
Sorry about it. We'll let you come in. Go ahead, Duke.
yeah. So, like I was telling you, I listened to a snippet of what he said. And, you know, to be honest, this is all 2029 in play right now. Everybody is playing for 2029. But you see, I disagree with the statement in that the way the whole thing has been framed. I mean, as an opposition, yeah, people are free to feel and say whatever they want to say. But again, uh, I see it as unpatriotic because if you are praying and willing to do things that would make this government to fail, where is your patriotism? On the other hand, I understand he's an opposition politician, but aren't the opposition supposed to work with the government of the day? And so the way the government succeed and the way the government fails, in a way, it has to do with the way how they work with the opposition. Yeah, he's entitled to his opinion to say, I want the government to fail. I want this Joseph Walker government to be, if I want Joseph Walker to be a one-term president. I mean, I said this before. Whether he says that or not, Joseph Walker is going to be a one-term president anyway. What are you doing to help Walker to succeed as an opposition, as a parliamentarian, as a senator? Are you hindering Joseph Walker projects in the legislature, or what are you doing? So I think it was, in my opinion, that statement was irresponsible on his part, and I also take issue with the way the government reacted. I think the government also overreacted, and again, like I said, I don't think that statement should have been made. It was irresponsible and unpatriotic. I mean, there is a way you can say it. You know, we are going to make sure that next year or come 2029 we're going to make sure that we win that election because of what we will present to the Liberian people compared to what you have presented to the Liberian people and all that. But to say I'm praying, I'm going to make sure that you fail, your bucket fail. I mean, I mean, I don't think it was just an appropriate statement to make.
Anthony Sia, this statement and the reaction of the government, does it indicate that the government is going to come hard against those who have anti-sentiments toward it, those who the reaction was so vehement that one would think they don't have a tolerance for anyone who will say negative things about the government. What's your take on it?
Jimmy, thank you. And, Mr. Dukla, thank you also for being here and having this very, very sober discussion, about our country. Snow, I listened to him. According to him, what he said is that he prayed that President Bwaka will be a one-term president. He did not say he's praying that the government fails. Those are his words, that he's praying for this government to be a one-term government. In other words, President Bwaka to become a one-term president. Now, having established that, what is wrong with that? I see condemnation coming against Snow for saying he's praying that President Bwaka become a one-term president. Because he says so will it happen? Even if he has said, I pray that the government fails. So Snow words now determine what happens in Liberia. Look, people are not thinking in a very thoughtful way, I want to believe. It's the way people look at things. And I think it demonstrates people not thinking critically, and people just want to be heard on anything that is completely meaningless. So for me, where I am right now, I want for the whole world to pray that I, Anthony Sia, fail. The whole world should all pray. I mean, it's all level your belief system, what you believe. I want the whole world to start praying right now that Anthony will fail. I want the whole world to make the prayer. I will not hold that against anybody. It's their right to pray, whichever way they wish. Now, if they are praying that I fail, does it guarantee that I will fail? Because someone praying that I fail, so I will fail? Look, my failure will be because I fail myself, because I don't make the best effort. Now, if Snow is undermining the government, if Snow is stopping money stopping the government from generating money to build the roads that they want to build, if Snow is doing things that are stopping the government project from ongoing. Earlier, you people were talking about the road from Vatam to Bramban Bridge, and also to St. Paul Bridge.
Yeah.
Is any opposition stopping the government from carrying on that project? The government said it has the money to do it. Any opposition can cry every day that they can go for fast and prayer. Once they have the money and they hire the right people to do the road will be built. Now, you're saying, but why should a man pray that kind of prayer? It is his right. to pray whichever way he wishes. Now, if you exhibit or conduct yourself in a certain way, others will hold you accountable in a certain way. And that's what's happening. People are taking him to tax for offering his prayer that way. That it means that he is not a patriotic Liberian. The man is a politician. Look, we were right here, some of us in America, when Obama became president. The Republican Party of the United States agenda was to make Barack Obama a one-term president. They did everything. They stopped everything. They never voted for any of the things that Obama put forth. They didn't do it. They did not succeed. This is a well-organized political party that has billionaires funding its political activities. It was their singular agenda in this country, America, that Obama should become a one-term president. Did that happen? No. They did everything politically. Some of them who could pray, I'm sure they prayed. If some of them could fast and pray, they also fasted and prayed. Did that happen because they said so? No. Look, we were right here when people said that Waka would never become president.
But Anthony,
some people said President Weah would never become president. I remember a guy who said, I think and was President Weah or President Waka when become president, walk from Foya all the way to Morovia, something like that. There's a lady, I think some of you might have seen that tape. The lady said if President Waka becomes president, they should kill her.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes, I saw that tape. Yeah.
Okay. Did Joseph Waka didn't become president because she said that? So how our leaders are thinking, it demonstrates that people are not serious about in their thinking how to move this country forward. How should that be a problem? How should that be a problem? Some people can put together and go for fast and prayer every day and tell the Liberian people that let the country fail. That is their right. If our leaders manage our country carefully, if we generate revenue to carry on the development, their prayers will never stop anything. You know how long Liberians have been praying for Liberia to succeed? Has Liberia succeeded despite their prayers? I was in Liberia, there was a rehab bunking crusade. All the churches in Liberia, they said they're praying for Liberia. Has Liberia gone anywhere in terms of development? No. It's a waste of time for national leaders, including the government, to be wasting time on this kind of nonsense. Now, here are the important things we should be doing that you people are discussing. That's why I left focus on Liberia. Jimmy raised the issue. Do we have a national development plan? We don't have it. We can all go to church every day and pray. We can all go to the mosque every day and pray. If we don't have a plan for this country, what kind of roads we want to have? What kind of schools we want to have? What kind of future we want to have? If we don't write that plan down, if we don't find the money, if we don't find the contractors to get those things done, we can spend money tonight in the church and pray. It will never happen. Never. You see the road from our major airport, RIA, going to Morovia, our capital city? They have been building that road now for over 7 years. It has gone nowhere. You think some people are not praying? Some people are praying for that road to be built. Ordinary citizens are praying for that road to be completed, but it has not. Let me tell people, I know Liberians believe in God so much. Myself, I believe that there is a God. But this is what the all says. Faith without work is dead. In other words, you can pray from now to judgment day, whatever you want, if you don't work for it, it will not happen. If you are listening to me now, if you want to come to America, every day fast and pray and do nothing. To come to America, you might apply for a visa. Don't apply for a visa. Be in that room and be fasting. You will never come. So, Jimmy, this is another waste of time of our leaders. Instead of this government trying to develop a national development plan for our country, how to connect our cities, how to educate our future leaders. They are not talking about it. They're taking one whole week and wasting that time and energy to talk about somebody saying he praying the government will fail. So it's an issue. And Snowe, too, who has been in politics, is like he's so afraid, writing letters to ECOWAS that he's been threatened. Look, politics is not for the cowards. The day I jump into national politics, I will say it any day, anywhere. The one thing I'll be praying for is let people come and arrest me and take me to jail. If you want to be in politics, do not be afraid of death. You will die anyway. Leadership is not for cowards. Leadership is not for weak-minded men and women. Leaders need to make tough decisions to move the country forward. And I just came from Liberia. I've left Liberia on Saturday. I slept in Ghana. I slept in a hotel. And I was amazed I was up to international standard. That not magic. That not magic. And the hotel I'm talking about was not built by Ghanaians. You know who built it? A Holiday Inn Hotel is one of the major hotel chains in the United States that decided to go to Ghana and build some of those hotels. Why? Because Ghana has stable electricity. Because planes can get to Ghana easily and it'll be safe. That's all we need to do. Can we find money and build our airport and upgrade it up to international standards? Can we build a road from RIA going to Monrovia so that when tourists enter the country, they can drive safely and get to Monrovia? Can we provide stable electricity so that investors will go and invest in our country? Can we build a road leading Monrovia going to Rabosport? I visited Rabosport, one of the most beautiful places you can ever think of in our country. Yeah. If you build 5-star hotels along the place, the whole world will be running to that place.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right? To be going for vacation.
Yeah.
We are not thinking about these things. We are talking about empty and stupid statement made by Melvin Snowe, and that is why it's consuming our time. This is the national discussion we are having.
Excellent. Now we're going to ask all the callers to come in. George, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, George, announce the number so they can our people can start coming in.
Okay, so wherever you are on a lovely Thursday evening like this, and you are listening to the program Focus on Liberia on Care Radio 95.9, the numbers to call 0777 959 959 and 0881 871 670 0777 959 959 0881 871 670. The numbers to call. Once call come in, I will let you guys know.
Thank you, George, for announcing the numbers.
So, since we're on the same page, Anthony, why they have not put together a national plan? Because that is the first thing you need. Why are they only satisfied with ad hoc, superficial, temporary cosmetic fixes instead of getting down to the nitty-gritty and putting your ideas on paper, how the country will develop from a state of poverty to a wealthy third, middle income nation?
Let me get with them, Mr. Jimmy. Good evening. Yes, your name, where you calling from? Welcome to the program.
I can't open it now. In the program. I'm in the program.
Okay, okay, my brother. Okay, Jimmy incoming.
All right,
Go
Jermaine.
ahead.
Jermaine, you raised an important point earlier. Mr. Dukley was talking about how we need a national conference on this, that, another waste of time, waste of effort, and waste of resources. We do not need national conference anymore. We have had so many conferences, and all that came out of those conferences were just papers written, some of which we have not implemented 10% of none of those. None. All right. So we don't need that. We don't need that. There was work done on how to bring about constitutional reform. They did an excellent job. I read the documentation. Guess what happened? We have not implemented it. So why do we need another one for? So there are things we need to implement. What I am in support for is for us to develop a national development plan for Liberia, a plan that will turn Liberia to an industrialized country, developed enough to create the necessary jobs and opportunities we need that will be a foundation for this country that we can build on over and for years to come. That is what we need. We don't need any other conference. All right. Look, Jimmy couldn't have put it right. I mean, it's like you want to build a house, you don't have a plan. What kind of house you think you're going to build? And let me go in detail a little bit here. To develop that plan, we can find people, give them the money, they will build you that national development plan. Get the right people to do so. They can tour the country, survey the entire country in terms of road network, in terms of building our electrical grid, even building our internet infrastructure. We really need internet. You made me president, now my number one priority will be internet. To connect the whole country by internet. Because somebody can be in ground crew and be working for Microsoft. Somebody can be in ground crew and be working for some company in India or somewhere else. That's the first thing you need.
Yes.
Because roads are expensive to build. Now in Liberia we have Starlink. Now what you call Amazon just launched internet in space also. So internet will soon become very common. But we could build our own grid or internet grid to provide internet in all the counties. You know what will happen? Jimmy can sit in America and teach a class in ground crew when internet is growing in the country.
Yes.
It is internet that made it possible somebody can send some money to somebody in ground crew. The population is young. We get us connected in no time. Roads take a lot of time. And so these are the kind of things that we should be thinking about. Do we have a plan for roads? Do we have a plan for our seaports, our airport? No. Any government come and say, okay, we'll come up with our problem. The CDC had a proper agenda for prosperity and development. Now it's a their plan. We have the Unity Party that have their rescue plan. That's what they're operating on. Now some people praying for President Baka to be a one-term president. A Unity Party is not elected, another their plan. Then another party will come. We can't be doing this to ourselves. So we really need a plan, and I am proposing that, look, if such plan will even cost us, say, $100 million just to write the plan. Let us spend that money and get that plan. And let the plan tell us the how we raise the money. Identify the contractors, the time frame, everything, the breaches. Let's spend that $100 million and find the people to tour the country, survey the entire country, and develop a plan for Liberia that will include everything from railroad, to highways and seaport and airports and electricity and the provision of water, housing, how to industrialize the country and go into manufacturing, education, and everything. We need that plan. Now, when we have that plan, we can come up with a timeline. We say, okay, this is our plan we have. Any budget every year will take 200 million from that budget and will commit it to our national development plan. We can identify the contractors. So for roads, this is a company we are contracting. The company has a history of building solid roads in the world. So we'll contract this, we'll hire this company, and they can be building our road. Every year we give them that $200 million, and the project is ongoing. If we come up with something like that, whoever comes to power, whether you're from Unity Party, you're from CDC, whatever party you come from, it is our national plan being given to our lawmakers. So when they are debating the budget, the first question they ask is, where is the $200 million that is being set aside for our national development plan? Has that money been set aside? Something that we should be thinking about. And now Snow making statement that he praying, and then everybody thinking that the country is about to die natural death because Snow said that. I saw Charles Taylor on his belly crying, oh Yahweh, oh Yahweh. Charles Taylor was praying, but still the man went to the man is in jail despite all that prayer. I'll leave it there, Jimmy.
Thank you very much. You want to add to that, Duke?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Anthony, what you said is true. I agree with it in part, but I mean, even the example that you cited, I think the reasons why Republicans wanted to see Obama a one-term president or they wanted him to fail, they were very explicit in what they were saying. And the tone of it was that I think, in my opinion, there was some racism to that, being the first black president. And also, they were specific that his policy, they felt that his liberal policies is going to doom the United States. And for that, they were not going to vote for any of his liberal policies, even though that's politics in the United States. But for our purpose and for our situation, I think such a statement, it doesn't mean because someone said that I'm going to pray for Liberia, that means Liberia is going to, the person's prayer is going to come to pass. No. But I think it was an irresponsible statement by Edwin Snowe to have made.
All right.
Okay, gentlemen, we have come to the end of the show. It's right now 10 o'clock in 10:04 in Liberia, 6:04 in Eastern Standard Time. I would love for you all to give me 5 seconds of your closing. 5 seconds.
My closing would be thanks to Kia Radio and its listening audience for being with us here during this broadcast. Our nation, our leaders need to come up with a national development plan, and then we go from there. That would be the foundation for moving the country forward. Anything short of that, we're just wasting our time. We'll never get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Duke?
Well, I just hope that we are able to elect leaders who are going to be conscious of our situation and who are going to be thinking about Liberia first before anything else. And let's see what the 2029 will bring for us.
Yeah, I would say a quick adage. You say if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. I will leave it right there. George?
Yeah.
Any closing words?
So far, so good. It's good to be here this evening with you guys. We pray to be back here on Saturday from 2 to 4.
All right. On that note, the song that says we are all Liberian closes the broadcast right now. Bye-bye, guys.
We are Liberian.